15 gods, 15 weapons, and 15 children. Destiny has set its course, and this is how it is followed. The Shepherd crew, just months after their encounter with the Venom Wraiths, finally put Mithondi's grand plan into action, tracking the divine weapons. After thorough research, Rasmesus located Failthorn, his divine weapon. This led the party to the Amakirs of Highmount, the protectors of Failthorn. However, it was discovered that the weapon had been taken. Rasmesus then guides his team to Roandan, Velstrana's wastelands, where there is a brief encounter with a cryptic warrior known as Godslayer. Then, they discover the one who stole the weapon is a figure known as the Disciple. Rasmesus and the Disciple strike a deal. He is to return in 2 years' time to fulfill an undescribed contract.
Rasmesus returns victorious, and nearby, a tomb to a late wielder is discovered in the outskirts of Adahal. Callisto and his party arrive in the city to meet their guides, Jeremiah and Shiara. Onyx accompanies them this time, though something is off. Taylonsta confronts them, and Onyx reveals a dagger he took from Atlas, a weapon called Nayant. As Onyx gives it to Zem, he begins to feel better while Taylonsta is overtaken by sinister intentions. To make matters worse, their trip into the Temple of the Twin Suns is interrupted by a gang called the Sunset Exiles. Their leader, Quinn Cassidy, takes Jeremiah hostage and strikes a deal. Their safety in return for a split of the temple's treasures. The temple is littered with traps, making navigation difficult. Callisto and Ganymede punch their way through illusions to find hidden passageways that lead to a secret tomb for Jupiter, their ancestor. Callisto and Ganymede eventually find 2 identical red daggers, Callisto taking one called Sunspot, and Ganymede wielding one called Corona, along with a mysterious cloak that Jupiter owned. The Shepherd crew escapes the temple unharmed and shakes hands with Quinn Cassidy, satisfied with the gold he found inside. Before leaving, Praxis informs the party that her mother has fallen ill, and will need to return home with her cousin Taylonsta soon. With this, along with Taylonsta's newfound hostility with the dagger, Jem's feelings for Ganymede, and the announcement of the next weapon to be found, things are starting to ramp up for the Shepherd crew.
The next weapon has been located right on Ickerfall as well, in Torleth's old home. With extreme anxiety about returning home, he takes his party to the base of the Mount Rock volcano, where the divine weapon Vulcan's Lyre rests. Torleth's mothers, Toflan and Janka, approach the party as they enter, following a melancholy song rumbling from the volcano. Toflan explains that the song has been with the coterie ever since the Great War, a war that Torleth's patron saint Volcani Kosia fought in. Torleth's weapon is located in her tomb, a mausoleum etched into the side of Mount Rock. Accompanied by the mountain's melody, the party climbs Mount Rock to Volcani's tomb the next day. Inside are several cave paintings done by Tarajan depicting the Second Grand Demon War. In a hidden passageway, the party finds an ancient warrior bound with chains to the ground. Inside his stomach rests Vulcan's lyre. After being prompted by the warrior, Torleth removes the lyre and the tomb becomes engulfed in flames. Outside, Godslayer overlooks the party as they break down and reconcile with reality. Torleth returns to the coterie for his overdue coming-of-age ceremony. He performs alone in front of everyone, giving everyone an emotional performance. He receives his tattoos, 2 diamonds on his chin, signifying his adulthood. After his dance, Torleth approaches his mother to tell him about his weapon. Toflan informs Torleth that his brother, Alex, is still alive after being banished from their home. Torleth storms away as ashy, burned-like marks appear over his hands and chest. Distraught, the party returns to the Shepherd, forlorn and traumatized. On another part of the boat, Taylonsta's sinister intentions are getting worse, as their newfound weapon inflicting terrible thoughts and murderous nightmares on them.
Everyone seems busy except Day. Lucky for them, there's a chance for them to get their weapon too. Despite their demand to go alone, Rylan hires an exploring mercenary group to accompany Day to the frozen mountains of Feldrift. Day meets a new group of heroes. the Brewster savant, Bahas, the freethinker, Valrin, the vengeful Sabbath, and the warm father, Jesse. Day explains that they're to climb the mountain in the search of the Cavian flame, where their weapon is suspected to be. As the new mercenaries tell a little bit about themselves along the way, Day decides to confide in them as well. They tell horrendous tales of their mother, and how she experimented on almost all of her children, including them and their siblings. The party hikes to the Cavian flame, crater carved into the mountains, with 12 different colored flames burning inside. However, a gargantuan skeleton monster arises. Get that. Declaring itself known as the Umbrus. Despite their teamwork, the Umbrus proves to be a deadly fight. Corners Valrin, giving them nowhere to turn as it slashes through them, killing them. Day then unleashes a final attack on the beast, splitting its skull in half. Inside, Day finds Gyralma, a throwing glaive in the shape of a dragon's head. Just as they realize Valrin has died, a surge of agony tears through Day, causing them to sprout new wings, the pain driving them unconscious. The survivors return to the town at the base of the mountain, arranging for Valrin's burial while Day recovers. Day awakens, they see the trouble they have caused, and go to leave immediately. Day is given Valrin's cloak before they trudge back to the shepherd.
Ready or not, Genevieve has her weapon to find next. The cryptic threat of Godslayer has her nervous, so she brings along some strong companions and heads for Latakai, a crystal mountain overlooking the city of Leshta. With the help of Benoa and Genevieve's new abilities, the party is able to overcome the mountain's trials. However, Latakai offers many revelations. Ganymede and Genevieve finally confess their feelings for each other. More tension arises between friends, and Genevieve finds that she was lied to about her race her entire life. Everyone eventually finds an alcove that holds the crystal shield Cryactum. The victory lasts but only for a moment, as sitting on the other side of the room, waiting and brooding, is the Godslayer. Manifesting stone gauntlets over their arms, Godslayer gives the party a chance to flee, but this doesn't prove to be an option. A battle breaks out, ending in bloody defeat. Ganymede's collarbones are shattered, Callisto's nose is dislocated, Scrungus's jaw is smashed, and Gem's weapon takes so many forceful blows that it breaks in half. Almost everyone is knocked unconscious by the end, but with their savior Benoa swooping in and carrying everyone back to the boat as Latakai itself is torn apart and crumbles inside out.
With the injuries to the party from Godslayer, the party needs time to recover. In the meantime, Wood has been researching his weapon and some writings by his ancestor that may lead to its location. Along with his shepherd allies, Wood reunites with his childhood friends, Azure and Luna, who take them to the Hostria Arch, where the three grew up together. With help from a lion hero named Calpurnico, and despite some ambushes from a cult called the Repentance, Wood tracks his weapon down through a series of clues littered in the Hostria Arch. Meanwhile, Tailonsta is still dealing with their violent urges from the dagger, and as they are about to depart, a haunting melody occurs to Tailonsta, and they see a ghostly canine figure, an unsettling omen. The party sets course for a whirlpool across the Hostria Arch, the rocky waves calming as Wood approaches. After Luna gets after Wood for leaving home so young, Calpurnico leads everyone to an island in the center. He brings forth Wood's divine weapon, Paramecium, and reveals that he was the one who left all of those clues as Paramecium's active wielder. The victory is interrupted by Repentance cultists. Intense combat breaks out, but only for a few moments. Killing every cultist in their path, Godslayer approaches, demanding to settle the score. Paramecium and Cryactum are taken to safety while Wood, Baird, and Tailonsta combat Godslayer alone. Tailonsta gives it their all, but Godslayer attacks Tailonsta, noting Neont in their grasp. Godslayer recognizes it as a demonic weapon and forces Tailonsta to stab himself in the chest, causing their body to dematerialize. Wood then attempts to kill Godslayer, but they feign defeat in order to run Wood through his own sword, mortally wounding him in turn. Just as Godslayer is about to kill Baird, someone saves him. A hooded figure, wielding a scythe. The Reaper chases Godslayer away, and is able to revive Wood and heal Baird. The Reaper gives Baird a potion that will wipe his memory, and make them remember the battle differently. Godslayer was murdered by Wood in this new retelling. The Reaper disappears while Baird falls asleep, and the battle is seemingly won. Despite their apparent victory, it comes with the price of their friend's life.
Tension is high, but life moves on. Tailonsta is honored in the only way they know how to, but it isn't enough. Praxis announces she will be bringing Nayant back to Atlas in order to find out more about what the weapon did to them. Everyone approaches Atlas with heavy spirits, but he can only offer so much. He explains that if Tailonsta was killed by Nayant, they most likely are still alive in a distorted dimension called the Fracture. However, there's no way of getting them back, since there's no one who can truly wield the blade. In hopes of easing their nerves, Atlas introduces the Shepherd to a new crewmate, a rambunctious druid named Vanth, who's suffering from amnesia and is looking to make some friends. Behind closed doors, Atlas instructs Vanth to keep a close eye out on the Shepherd and their plan and report back to him with his findings. For now, Vanth starts right away connecting with his new family and begins to feel that Mathandi may be his long-lost father. Praxis, already let down, finds herself returning home. She expects that her dying mother, the wielder of her weapon, Northwind, will pass the crossbow down to her sister Nylina, rather than her. She goes and introduces some of her friends to her family, including her sister, her step-parent, her half-brother Jetstream, and her two mothers, Shaylee and Kisi. To Praxis' shock, Shaylee decides to pass Northwind down to Praxis instead. Nylina is outraged, seeing how Praxis hasn't been doing her part for the Soaring Wind family. Praxis tries to resolve things with her, while everyone else talks to Jet, in hopes of alleviating his gloomy attitude and giving him a better outlook on life. Even with some family issues, Praxis finds herself easily getting her weapon, promises to use it to do her cousin justice. Unknown of all this, Xavier, with the help of Igni and High Priestess Simica, heads to the jungle continent of Orpheon, where his weapon is an heirloom to a very powerful family. The divine claw set, Gara, belongs to the Kaijaw family, an outgoing hyena family, and the highest revered of their race. The Kaijaws are a boisterous hyena family known for their energy and athletics, who've had Gara for years. So when Xavier and his ragtag group of travelers show up, King Zephyr dismisses their effort. However, his nephew, Reuben, recognizes Xavier from childhood. Two boys were abandoned at the same time and spent time helping each other survive in the streets. Reuben knows how loyal and cunning Xavier is, so he pleads their case to allow them to compete in some athletic events for it. Zephyr strikes a deal. If Xavier can teach Zephyr's son, Blaze, a lesson in teamwork and showmanship, then Gara could rightfully be his. Let the games begin. A mini-sporting event is set up to let Xavier and his friends compete against the Kaijaws head-to-head. Even despite their training, the Kaijaws find themselves losing to the rookies. That is, until it comes down to a brawling match between Xavier and Blaze. The Kaijaw family may be chaotic, but they display good showmanship. When Blaze gets so furious that he attempts to kill Xavier, King Zephyr immediately calls the match off. After seeing his son fester into a hateful man with no regard for others, Zephyr chooses to declare Xavier the winner, and banish his son from the Kaijaws for disrespecting their laws. Blaze vanishes with vengeance, while Xavier is celebrated for claiming his new divine weapon. He returns back to the Shepherd, only to hear about the tragedy and wreckage he's missed.
After training and waiting for her entire life, the time has come for Cece to get her own weapon. Cece and her friends head to Theoden, a frozen desert littered with demonic forces. Thanks to some old friends, the party is able to push through safely and find the lone cabin where a hero named Magdalene Moonsides resides. A hero Cece admired from her youth, and the wielder of Comet Crusher, the divine weapon of space. Magdalene is an older woman who gets right to the chase. She will only give Cece Comet Crusher if she fights for it,
and in turn, if she kills Magdalene for it. Despite Cece's panic and resistance, there is no other choice. Magdalene and Cece drop below the surface into a small cave system and begin to fight for Comet Crusher. Two nuanced and energetic fighters go head-to-head, engaging in a tense game of cat and mouse. They counter well and strike with fierce strength, but Magdalene proves to be more honed, bringing out Cece's elemental form Matsuku. Magdalene also has her own moon-powered elemental form, but with more control and balance between the sides. Matsuku and Magdalene have some time to talk, as Magdalene encourages them to be more true to themselves. Magdalene allows Cece to subdue her, and impales herself upon her sword in order to give Cece ownership of Comet Crusher. Remorseful and bitter, Cece lays her hero down on Fjorden Beach, and watches as the Reaper comes to take her safely away as the Shepherd departs from the shore.
Even as the newest member of the Shepherd, Vanth also has a weapon to search for. Much like Xavier, Vanth also has to face up against strong Hyenids for Stig. This weapon, like Gara, has been with the massive Hyenid family for years, the Darklaws. The Darklaw family is second best compared to the rivaling Kaijaws, but they're just as fierce and competitive. Seeing Vanth approach looking for Stig, they challenge him in the best way they can, athletics, just like the Kaijaws. The Darklaws, led by Monarch Poltergeist, come just short compared to the skills of the Shepherd crew. In defeat, Poltergeist is just about to give Vanth his earned weapon when the chaos strikes. From the sky comes a giant monstrous bird that takes Poltergeist and Stig away from the clouds. Half in the air, half on the ground, an epic battle follows. With the help of some of Orpheon's wildlife, Vanth takes half of his friends to the sky to rescue Stig from one of the birds, while the rest go to rescue Poltergeist from the nearby cave that they were dropped in. With Vanth's impressive druid skills, Poltergeist and the weapon are kept out of harm's way, and the Darklaw family is kept safe. After having their life saved, Poltergeist is more than willing to let Vanth take Stig and wield it on their own. Another victory for the Shepherd crew.
After months of research, Baird finally tracks down what should be his divine weapon. The first divine weapon ever created, Aquila, and it should be buried somewhere in the deserts of Omen. Archaeologist Jeremiah assists, along with his flirtatious and fiery bodyguard Jack Montague. Even despite the ancient terrors of the ruins of Omen, Jack and Baird spend most of their time flirting each other up and getting along quite well off the bat. Omen offers some terrible encounters, including demonic worms and loathsome desert marauders. Despite the hatred Omen offers, Baird and Jack get closer and confide in each other. Baird explains how he's never truly felt loved and appreciated by his friends, and Jack promises that he can change that for him going forward, starting what seems to be a new relationship. The ruins of the ancient city of Omen hold a tomb where Aquila is. Covered in demonic silks, the city is roaming with mindless corpses and haunted by a ghastly figure playing discordant songs throughout the ruins. Finally, the tomb of the ancient king is found, and Baird meditates by an ancient sarcophagus. Baird has a spiritual moment where he meets his ancient ancestors he's been researching, Lux the Stormcaller and Cadagus Squallshear, two heroes of his bloodline. They encourage him and put their power in his hands, erasing his doubts and crowning him the culmination of their bloodline. This newfound power lets Baird wake up and fight with Aquila for the first time and claim it as his own, the first wielder since Lux. Before leaving for the Shepherd once more, Jack and Baird share a kiss and promise to wait for each other and write to each other in the meantime.
It's finally time to take the city of Valdor back. Scrungus takes the people he trusts the most and sets out for the Clockwork City to reunite with his father, Boulder, and rid the city of the metal-eating solder spiders with the help of the divine weapon Ferris's enhanced abilities and assistance from the Tempest Knights and the last of Valdor's militia. The spiders are driven from the city at a cost. Despite their efforts, Valdor is in ruin, and General Baldur falls victim to handing his divine weapon to his son, informing him of his real family he belonged to before adoption. Balder is Scrungus's uncle, and his actual father still lives out there somewhere. A hooded figure comes by, an old friend of Balder's. He was too late to save his friend, but gives him a proper send-off to the afterlife either way. He says that he and Balder had a plan, and to not trust Mithandi anymore. Scrungus is to those he trusts, and accompanies this man to a nearby town, where he will tell them of Mithandi's secrets, lies, and deceit.
Mithandi has proven himself unfit for fatherhood, so the Reaper steps in. Wielder of the divine weapon Schism, Rapture Kai'Ja informs half of the heroes of Mithandi's villainous corruption in hopes of leading them to a better path. Mithandi is looking for Schism, and will do absolutely anything to have it, including killing Rapture's husband, and trying to kill him as well. Tension rises, but the Valdor party puts their faith in Rapture. Except for Cece. While they stay with the runaway wielder, Cece returns and immediately reports to Mithandi. With some corrupted skill and menacing persuasion, he distorts her memory and tells her that everyone else who went to Valdor died defending the city, with Cece being the only survivor. The runaways spend a year in hiding. Rapture becomes the captain of his own ship, the Exodus, along with Callisto, Torleth, Scrungus, Andrew, Rasmesus, and Xavier. Everyone else remained on the Shepherd to fulfill their plans. 1 year. Thandi is looking for Rapture. Rapture is looking for closure.